The slave's name is Halotus. He is 26 years old, purchased from a Greek merchant when he was 14, trained in household service until his discretion and silence earned him assignment to the Imperial Palace on the Palatine Hill. He has served in the private quarters for 4 years now. He has learned to see nothing. He has learned to hear nothing. He has learned that survival in this palace requires the absolute erasure of observation from memory. Tonight, he cannot erase what he is observing. He stands in the corner of the triclinium, the private dining room reserved for the emperor's most intimate gatherings. His function is to refill wine cups when they empty, to clear plates when courses end, to exist as furniture that moves when required and disappears when not. He has performed this function hundreds of times. He has witnessed conversations that could destroy senators. He has seen documents that could reshape the empire. He has heard secrets that powerful men would kill to protect. He has never witnessed anything like what is happening now. The emperor reclines on the central couch, his position marking him as host and master of the gathering. He is 25 years old, tall for a Roman, his body still carrying the athletic build of his youth. His face, which coins depict with idealized features, is gaunt in person, the cheekbones too prominent, the eyes set too deep, the expression shifting between animation and something that looks like absence, as though the person behind the face occasionally departs and leaves the body operating on automatic function. His name is Gaius Julius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus. The soldiers who raised him in military camps called him Caligula, Little Boots, a nickname from the miniature military boots he wore as a child mascot of the legions. The nickname was affectionate then. It is something else now. On the couches flanking him lie 3 women. They are his sisters. Halotus knows their names because everyone in Rome knows their names. Agrippina, 23 years old, the eldest of the 3, her face carrying the sharp features of their father Germanicus, her eyes never resting, always calculating, always measuring distances and angles and possibilities. Drusilla, 21, the emperor's favorite, her beauty legendary, even by the standards of a family that produced beautiful women. Her expression tonight carefully blank in a way that suggests practice. Julia Livilla, 19, the youngest, her face still soft with youth that the palace is rapidly destroying, her hands trembling slightly as she reaches for her wine cup. They are dressed in silk so fine it conceals nothing. They are adorned with jewelry worth more than most Romans earn in a lifetime. They are positioned on couches, arranged, so that the emperor can see all 3 simultaneously, can reach any of them without rising. Halotus stops this line of thought. He has learned to stop thoughts that lead to dangerous places. The emperor is speaking. His voice is pleasant, educated, carrying the refined accent of aristocratic upbringing. He is discussing philosophy. He is quoting Epicurus on the nature of pleasure, pausing to offer his own interpretations, inviting his sisters to respond with comments that demonstrate their own education. It could be any aristocratic dinner party. It could be any gathering of cultured Romans enjoying intellectual discussion over excellent wine, except for the way Drusilla's hand shakes when her brother touches her arm, except for the way Agrippina's jaw tightens when the emperor's attention shifts to her, except for the way Julia Livilla has consumed 3 cups of wine in 20 minutes, drinking with the desperate efficiency of someone who needs to be somewhere other than fully present, except for what Halotus knows will happen when the philosophical discussion ends. The emperor sets down his wine cup. The gesture is casual, but Halotus has learned to read these signals. The conversation is ending. The evening is progressing to its next phase. The slaves will be dismissed, all except the 2 guards at the door, who will ensure no one enters and no one leaves until the emperor permits. "You may go," the emperor says to Helotus, not looking at him, his attention fixed on his sisters with an expression that might be affection on any other face, but is something else on this one. Return in 3 hours to clear the room. Helotus bows and withdraws. Behind him, as the door closes, he hears the emperor say something to his sisters in a tone that carries no room for refusal. He hears one of the women he thinks it is, Julia Livia, the youngest, make a sound that is not quite a word. He walks away quickly. He has 3 hours. He will spend them in the slaves' quarters, staring at the wall, practicing the art of not remembering. He is not successful. 3 hours later, when he returns to clear the room, the emperor is gone. The 3 sisters remain on their couches, their silk garments disarranged, their carefully arranged hair destroyed, their faces carrying expressions that Helotus will see in his dreams for the rest of his life. Drusilla is crying silently, tears tracking down her cheeks without sound, her eyes fixed on nothing. Agrippina is not crying. Her face has hardened into something that looks like carved stone, her eyes burning with an emotion that Helotus recognizes as hatred so intense it has transcended feeling and become purpose. Julia Livilla is unconscious. The wine and whatever else was in the wine has finally granted her the escape she sought. Her breathing is shallow, but steady. She will wake eventually. She will remember eventually. The escape is temporary. Helotus begins clearing the plates. His hands are steady because he has trained them to be steady. His face shows nothing because showing anything is death in this palace. But inside, in the space where he still exists as a person rather than a function, he is screaming. What you are about to learn has been debated by historians for 2,000 years. The ancient sources, Suetonius, Cassius Dio, Tacitus, all record that the Emperor Caligula engaged in incestuous relationships with his 3 sisters. They record it bluntly, without the euphemism that characterizes discussion of other imperial scandals. They name the sisters. They describe the relationships. They specify that this was not rumor or accusation, but accepted fact within the imperial court. For centuries, scholars dismissed these accounts as propaganda. Surely, they argued, these were exaggerations designed to discredit a dead emperor. Surely no Roman, even an emperor, would violate such fundamental taboos so openly. Surely the sources were repeating hostile gossip rather than documenting actual events. But the sources are remarkably consistent. Writers who disagreed on nearly everything else, who represented different political factions, different time periods, different levels of access to imperial records, all recorded the same basic facts about Caligula and his sisters. The consistency extends to details that hostile propaganda would not bother inventing. And the physical evidence, the documentary evidence, the administrative records that survive in fragments, all of it confirms that something extraordinary was happening in the imperial palace during Caligula's 4-year reign. Tonight, you will learn what the ancient sources actually recorded, not the sanitized versions that appear in popular histories. You will learn about the 3 sisters, Agrippina, Drusilla, and Julia Livilla, whose lives were shaped by their brothers' obsessions in ways that would echo through Roman history for generations. You will learn about the public ceremonies where Caligula displayed his relationships with his sisters openly, forcing senators and citizens to witness what should have been unwitnessable. You will learn about the private quarters where the real horrors occurred, documented in accounts from palace servants whose testimonies were recorded and preserved. You will learn about Drusilla, the favorite sister, whose death drove Caligula into a madness that terrified even those who had witnessed his previous excesses. About the divine honors he forced Rome to grant her, making her the first Roman woman officially deified, transforming his violation of her into a form of worship that the entire empire was compelled to observe. You will learn about Agrippina, who survived her brother's reign through calculated submission, who channeled the hatred born in those palace rooms into a decades-long campaign of revenge that would eventually place her own son on the imperial throne. Her son's name was Nero. The horrors he would inflict were shaped by the horrors his mother had endured. You will learn about Julia Livilla, the youngest, who sought escape through wine and eventually through conspiracy, whose attempt to free herself led to exile on a barren island where she starved to death at 24 years old. You will learn about the witnesses, the slaves who served in those rooms, the guards who stood outside those doors, the officials who documented what they observed, because documentation was their function regardless of what they were documenting. Their accounts survived because they were administrative records rather than political narratives, filed away and forgotten until scholars began examining them with new questions. If you want to understand how absolute power corrupts absolutely, how family bonds can become chains more terrible than any imprisonment, how victims can become perpetrators, and how trauma echoes across generations, then you need to watch this entire video. Subscribe right now, because what you are about to learn reveals patterns that did not end with Rome. The dynamics that operated in Caligula's palace, the exploitation of familial relationships, the use of public ceremony to normalize private violation, the destruction of victims' identities until they become instruments of their own abuse. These dynamics persist in recognizable forms. Hit that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me where in the world you are watching from. Because these three women existed, their suffering was real. And understanding what happened to them illuminates something fundamental about how power operates when no restraints remain. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, to the family that produced both the victims and their destroyer, to the circumstances that placed three sisters entirely within their brother's power, to the childhood that created the man who would become Rome's most infamous emperor. Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus was born on August 31st in the year 12 AD, the third son and youngest child of Germanicus and Agrippina the Elder. His family was Roman aristocracy at its most exalted. His father, Germanicus, was the most celebrated general of his generation, beloved by the legions, popular with the Roman people, considered by many to be the natural successor to Emperor Tiberius. His mother Agrippina the Elder was the granddaughter of Augustus himself, carrying bloodlines that connected her directly to the founder of the empire. Gaius spent his early childhood in military camps along the Rhine frontier, where his father commanded Rome's northern legions. The soldiers adored him. They made him miniature military equipment,